I'd like to propose a toast.
Welcome to I'll Drink to That Goodspeed's live Instagram show here on Mondays at 5 p.m., also known as the only time a week that I wear jeans. We hope that, and I already said the we hope stuff. Anyway, I think it's time for me to bring in my fabulous co-host, the one and only, the incomparable Anika Chapin, Goodspeed's and artistic associate, the creator of the cocktails we enjoy on this broadcast, Anika Chapin.
Hello.
How are you, Anika?
I'm good. It's funny that you said this is the only time you wear jeans, because I was thinking earlier, I'm like, this is the only time that I wear makeup.
It is the only time a week I wear jeans, except we had to do a photo shoot. We use the term loosely for the podcast, and I put on jeans for that last week. So, but this week except unless I'm going out in public, I'll put on jeans. So, Anika, what would you like to tell us what our topic is this week?
I would, but before I do that, I just
Yes.
say exciting news broke just like hot off the presses from like half an hour ago, which is that the Pulitzer Prizes were announced, and the Pulitzer Prize winner for drama is A Strange Loop by Michael Jackson.
By Michael R. Jackson. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh,
Michael,
congratulations.
yes, he has not had a show at Goodspeed, but he has been at our Mercer Colony with several projects, including, I think, A Strange Loop.
Yes.
So,
Uh-huh.
So I think the fact that he worked on it on our campus means that that's our pride.
That is so exciting. Oh, that makes my heart so happy.
Yeah.
Anyone who is watching and has not listened to Strange Loop or doesn't know what it is, definitely worth a Google. And it's streaming on Spotify. The album is really great. It's a wonderful piece. I didn't get to see it live, unfortunately, but I have many friends who were involved with it, and I've only heard extraordinary things about it. So that makes my heart so happy.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. I did get to see it live, and it's funny. I did this thing. My sister will kill me for saying this, but I did the thing that I do sometimes, which is like, oh, I got to see that. I got to see that. I got to see that. And then it's like the final weekend, and I'm like, ugh, now the tickets are all, however much money. And
Yeah.
usually is not someone who loves to spend money on things in general. She's a frugal type. So generally she will kind of be like, oh, it's how much? No, I'll miss it. I'll tell you. And with this, I was like, okay, well, we can go. But the tickets are like, I think at that point they were like $90.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, at least.
Pay on for something like that. And, or we would try to get in early. And I was like, okay, but the ticket's $90. And she's like, okay. And I was, oh, really? So we went, and it was fantastic, and I dream of being able to see it again, which hopefully now will happen.
I know there are people at work on it who very much believe in that show, and this is a great boost for them. So, that makes my heart so happy. Okay, so we'll go ahead. We're going to do a preliminary toast in honor of Michael R. Jackson and everyone behind A Strange Loop. We're going to play our favorite sound cue. And congratulations, Michael. That's really exciting. That's really, really great.
And well deserved. I mean, you'll see.
So well deserved.
It's a deeply personal piece, and he's really like just bleeding his heart out in this show.
Yeah.
While it's also hilariously funny and so deeply moving, and everything that great musicals should be. So
that made my day. Love it. Love it. Okay, so with that, Anika, would you like to announce the topic for our little program?
Yes, indeed. Well, we thought we would talk about great divas in Broadway history today and in the past, as we all know and love them. So that's
I'm very excited. This is like a topic I've been waiting, like every week. I'm like, can we do Diva Week? We need Diva Power Hour. And frankly, even as I was like making a list and preparing, I was like, there's no way we can accomplish all of this in one. There's gonna have to be like divas are gonna have to do something we just like cycle in and do frequently, because there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones, especially when you talk like when you start to like open up like what's a diva? Like what do you think makes a diva, a Broadway diva?
Well, it's funny. I actually have to pull in from opera for this, because I think opera helped me frame what a musical diva is, even though I am way more familiar with musical theater than I am with opera. But I remember the first time I saw Renee Fleming in an opera, and she stepped on stage, and it was like every eyeball in the space immediately was like drawn to her, and you couldn't. And it was the first time I was like, oh, that's a prima donna. That's like, it's like someone who's obviously incredibly talented when you're talking about musical theater or opera, someone who has a really strong talent, probably a beautiful singing voice, although I would argue a lot of great Broadway divas did not, like Elaine Stritch.
Yeah, I was going to say Elaine Stritch, the namesake of the program.
But just like there's something larger than life about them, and there's a star power that you cannot look away from.
Absolutely. That's I think a fair thing, because even, you know, there are so many like divas who have had who started on Broadway and have had an impact beyond Broadway.
Yeah.
That you know, makes the conversation a little tricky. But you know, so it's kind of, there's a certain level of like fabulous. Like in some ways, like I thought like there's almost a world where you could say like that you have to be able to just say their first name or their last name, and we automatically know who you're talking about. Like when I say Ethel, everyone knows we're talking about Ethel Merman, like in theater context. Or if you say Merman, everyone knows who that is. If you say, you know, if you say Liza, there's no question, you know, unless you're Michael Gennaro and he could be talking about his sister, there's really no, like, Liza with the Z, or like it's Liza Minnelli, you know, but then you get into, there's a little trickier waters with that, with some people who have more common names, I suppose. And I should say to the listening audience, please comment. This is going to be a very interactive show, so please comment your favorite diva, and we'll give some thoughts maybe. Because otherwise, we can just, I thought maybe we should like do a top 3 list. Like, who are your top 3 favorite divas? Like, start like with number 3, Anika. Like, who's a number, like someone who might be your number 3 diva?
I was afraid you were going to make me rank. I'm so bad.
I love a ranking. I do.
I love a fuzzy cloud. That's my thing. Like a general, like my favorite musical. Okay, I have one favorite musical really, but like otherwise there's like it depends on my mood and my time and everything. Okay, so I would say number 3. Let me see. I think I'm going to give it to Elaine Stritch for number 3.
I love that choice.
Yeah,
I do.
She's completely unique. She has a lot of things that would normally, I think, seem like that would make them unable to be a star. Like,
yes,
her freaky singing voice, which is not really pleasant to listen to. And yet at the same time, if you see her do Ladies Who Lunch, it's a 3-act play. It's just whatever magical juju she has, and the combination of interesting traits that she has just became something completely special on stage.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's she's such a Broadway creature in that we talk about.
Totally. She absolutely is. I think for me, and I'm seeing some great comments, and Bette Midler, Bernadette coming up twice, and I'll connect to Bernadette in a second, although she's higher than number 3 on my diva list. But for instance, Elaine Stritch, like, talk about like a person with a personality who brings so much of themselves on stage. And when I think about that, like the revival of Little Night Music, which I think the revival, when it added Bernadette Peters and Elaine Stritch, they shut it down and they like did a proper rehearsal with them and things. Elaine Stritch brought such a different energy to that role, at least for me, and the performances I'd seen, that it completely made me rethink who that character is. And I thought it was so effective and so impactful, and it was 100% the dry, biting humor that she brings to things that I don't normally associate with that role in the same way. And there was just like something about what Elaine Stritch could bring to it. I was like, oh my God, I thought it was iconic. I absolutely loved it. And to me, it doubled the heartbreak of that character's story, because she did have this hard exterior like that. And so, anyway, Elaine Stritch, I'll drink to that.
Yeah. So who's your number 3?
Well, I think my number 3, and I wrote down like a word bank of divas. I think my number 3, I think I'm gonna have to go. I think number 3, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's Kelli O'Hara, because I love Kelli O'Hara.
one, then I'm going to knock them off my list so we don't have a lot of repeat. But Kelly O'Hara would be on my list too. I think
Would she? Okay, I adore Kelly O'Hara. I think she is such a gifted actress and singer, and I really adore her. Even if she's in a show that I don't necessarily love, I still always like I respect what she's doing. I think she's extraordinary. She's also from Oklahoma, so I have a little bit of like bias there. So yeah, but I think I'd probably say Kelly's my number 3, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great one.
Yeah. Who would be your number 2? I see someone brought up Patti LuPone. Patti LuPone will not be making my top 3. So there's the tea on that. But who would be your number 2, Anika?
I mean, we should also say there's so many. Like this is
So many.
not
At
like,
first I thought there weren't going to be that many, and then I started to make a list and I was like, oh wow, there are a lot.
because that's something that I wanted to bring up anyway, which is that like Broadway is a very like I think unlike any other entertainment industry, I would say it's a very woman dominated and specifically woman. Like I'd say most of the roles, like the big meaty roles in shows in general, I'd say are, like if you looked at all musicals, probably most of them are for women who are in their 40s at least, probably. You know, when you look at the big one, the Maims and the Gypsies and the like
Dolly.
yeah, you know, I mean they're all, and even the ones, even if it's not sort of a middle-aged woman, it's like, you know, South Pacific, and there's just like a ton of shows that have a very strong woman protagonist at the heart of it. Not a usual thing. So anyway, that all being said, I'm going to give number 2 to Audra McDonald.
I thought about making her my number 3. I thought about it. I was like debating between her and Kelly. So why do you love Audra? Because I mean, Audra's incredible, but why? What is about Audra that puts her at number 2 for you?
Because she's another one where it's like I think to be on my list of like top Broadway divas, there has to be something about you that's just unique in a real way, you know. And I think the mix that Audra has of she's kind of got this like earthy, funny humor all the time, but she's also got this like angel voice that comes out of her, you know. That it just she can do all of these things that are such an like they're different elements, you know. It's not like she's like pure ingenue. It's not like she's like pure character. She has such a wide toolbox to pull from, and I mean a lot of these divas also do. I think that's part of what that makes them great is that they can't really be confined to one thing. But
right,
and she's such a fun, lovely human being too. So
her voice also has such a warm quality to it that I so appreciate and love, and that so often can get lost in soprano voices. But she has such a warmth that I respond to. So I respect that choice. I do, and I see someone in the comments commenting Angela Lansbury. Also, a true theatrical creature who could, on another day, have made my top 3. I love Angela Lansbury. I do.
I'm glad that she didn't because she's amazing. And I love Murder, She Wrote, where she surprisingly has a bunch of great outfits, too. Diva has an attitude, would you say? Yeah, diva has definitely an attitude. But for this purpose, I think we're using it a little bit more as a noun. Because I think diva has an attitude is a bad thing. It's sort of like you are kind of a jerk about it, but a diva as a noun feels like something else. It's just something that you carry with you.
Right.
Comment that was made. I realized I didn't make that clear that I was reading a comment. Just
no, it's fine. I know what you're doing. Yeah. I think my number 2 has to be, and I've been struggling because, like, in some ways, anyone who knows me, I have a really obvious number 1. But I'm going to qualify that number 1 when I give it. So my number 2 is Bernadette Peters, who I absolutely worship. Bernadette Peters. She's a brilliant actress. It brings so much to the table. I think she's amazing. So Bernadette was the first woman that I saw do Mama Rose. I love her Mama Rose. It's my favorite Mama Rose. Bernadette and Dolly was one of the supremely great experiences of my existence. Bernadette, and even like her film and TV work. We've already talked on this program about my love for Glenderella, also known as Roger Hammerstein's Cinderella on The Wonderful World of Disney back in the day, where she was the stepmother, and she had one of my favorite takedowns of all time, which is, "You're common, Cinderella. Your mother was common, your father was common, and so are you." Oh, come on. That's a diva.
Yeah.
I love Bernadette. So, and honestly, and that doesn't even talk about her in Into the Woods and Sunday in the Park with George and all these amazing things she's done. I just, Bernadette. And Mac and Mabel, Bernadette.
Yeah. Also, even aside from the fact that she's in her 70s now, and she literally, I mean, look at all these wrinkles that I have that are not on Bernadette Peters' face. And I'm 37, and she's probably the reverse. And that woman has a portrait in her attic that is aging for her. That's my only theory. That's what I got.
I mean, listen, Bernadette.
That's from her talent. This is not related to people's beauty, but it has to be said in that case.
So who would be your number one, do you think?
This is really tough, but I gotta kind of give it to. I'm gonna split it into two, but for the same reason, because I think there's kind of like there's a very interesting thing if you wanted to do like the old school and then the new incarnation.
Yes.
So I'm going to give it to the old school and new incarnation, because I got to give it to like the OG Broadway diva, who is Ethel Merman.
Okay.
Fair. Because I think talk about another unique creature. Like that voice was like a foghorn, but at a time where there were no microphones. So you had to have this kind of like, brass instrument voice. I mean, so many shows were shaped around her. I mean, she just, Broadway, I think, is the way it is partially because Ethel Merman was an early Broadway star. I think there are a lot of shows that she's left her stamp on indelibly. So I just gotta give it to her. And it's interesting when you see her in movies, it's like, it's definitely a different style of performance. Like, I don't know what it would look like if Ethel Merman were on a Broadway stage today. It would probably be so broad.
Oh, I don't think anyone would. But Ethel Merman walked so that all these other ladies could run in so many ways.
I think so. I mean, I think that's a real, But then I got to give it to, if you're going to do an old school version of that and then a modern one, I know she's not going to make your list, but she's going to make mine, Patti LuPone. She's so good.
Stop. Listen, she can sing circles around anyone. I appreciate the personality.
She's made out of steel. Ethel Merman. I mean, she just is so like strong. I just love it.
I mean, I will say her voice. It's undeniable that her voice and her aura, and it's undeniable she's a diva. Like, and I respect her, and I do like Patti. I don't worship at the altar of Patti.
No, I mean, I will say also, though, I don't worship at the altar of any particular performers in the way that
That makes one of us.
I love a lot. And there's like, this list is so long. I mean, like, Marin Mazzie, Lauren Benanti, Kate Baldwin, whose voice is like a beautiful brass instrument that is like golden and glowing, and she's amazing. I love her. Like there's so many. Sutton Foster, who's completely unique. Beth Level, Kristen Chenoweth. Someone just said in this. That's
Kristen Chenoweth, who I also love and almost got that number 3 spot for me too.
Yep, Kristen Chenoweth. I mean, Idina Menzel, who I think is another example of someone who has like some strengths, some weaknesses, but like, oh my God, you can't take your eyes off her when she's on stage. So there's lots. I mean, Mary Testa, who's amazing, who's so funny, and Faith Prince. The comedy divas. You could just go on forever.
Go on forever. And that's, what the other thing too, when you're talking about like Broadway diva, I agree on some level it is a personality, like on some level it's a personality thing, which is why I think like Merman and LuPone make so much sense. As like, you say Merman, you say Patti, and everyone knows who you're talking about. And they do have a bit of a reputation for being, like larger than life.
Right.
But I think, the other thing too is like there are the people like, someone a while ago said Bette Midler. Like Bette Midler grew up on
didn't grow up on Broadway, but like got her start on Broadway and got her start in theater, and then went on to do have a massive recording career and become like a station of the Gay Cross and all the things that like she's since come back to Broadway in Hello Dolly, but for a long period in between, and she had the Sue Menger show before that. But she had like, I don't know that I qualify her as a Broadway diva because I don't think of her as like just a Broadway person.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas like, and even Ethel Merman like did movie work, but it never transcended her on stage. Yeah. She's known for her stage stuff, you know?
Well, I think that's such a good point, because I think arguably like one of the biggest divas of all time who started on Broadway indelibly, Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, right. That's what I was about to go. Yes.
Yeah, that's like, I can't qualify her as a Broadway diva necessarily because I've never seen her on stage. You know?
Well, she did like two Broadway shows, right? It's only like Funny Girl and I Can Get It For You Wholesale.
Yeah, I think so.
Like the show that made her a star, the show that made her a superstar, and then I don't think she's done anything since, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think she has. Like, for me, that's hard to qualify her as a Broadway diva because she isn't, you know, like, she's gone on to other things that have since defined her, who she is and her career, you know? So, like, on the list, so obviously so this spoils, but, like, it goes into my number one pick, but it has an asterisk, because my number one pick is Julie Andrews. Everyone knows I love Julie Andrews. I worship her. But I don't necessarily worship her because of the things she did on Broadway. I worship her for her movie work and her, like, I mean, I worship her for everything from her work, her author books she's written, the podcast she just released, which is delightful, her TV stuff. I know a lot about, I've watched her in a lot of different arenas, but I don't feel like I should say she's a Broadway diva because she did 4 Broadway shows, and then I don't know that counts. Like, whereas like Sutton Foster is known because of theater. Like Kristen Chenoweth has gone on to other things, but she is centrally a Broadway diva. So I don't. It's like it's hard because even Idina Menzel is a Broadway. Yeah. Like she is a theater actress. Like yes, she did Elsa, and obviously she has a movie career, but I don't know that. Like if she were to go on her tax returns, I feel like she lists like theater actress. You know what I mean?
And you know, it's funny too because I think there are also really stellar actresses on Broadway who are no question some of the leading actors on Broadway right now that I wouldn't necessarily call a diva because what they do is slightly different. Like the one that comes to mind is like I think she's one of the I think she's one of the finest working actors on Broadway today, Jessie Mueller. But I don't know if I would necessarily call her a diva because I think the parts that she plays, she doesn't like, there's like an aura of stardom that she doesn't carry with her, which is I think what makes her so effective as the roles she plays, which are like Jenna and Waitress and even Carole King. It's like, you know, she was good at playing people who kind of fly under the radar because I think she doesn't have that kind of like shimmering like star power that some of these ladies bring in with them, which is interesting too.
Well, that's interesting you bring up Jessie because she was on the list of like possible, you know, I mean she is a diva, but like that's so interesting because I don't know that I would attribute the same thing. Like I still think that Jessie Mueller, when Jessie Mueller does something, like she gets entrance applause. Like is that where we're drawing the line? And somewhat like it's like there's so many different factors that to make into a diva. Like we, you know, honestly, like one of our March Madness like tournaments, we should do like because like there's so many elements to what make a diva. It's like I don't, you know. It's interesting to think about because like I would consider Jessie Mueller a diva, and on a certain level, like we said before, like where do you draw the line? And that's interesting. That's where you draw the line. Yeah. Whereas like you know, is it just if you star in one Broadway show? You could be a diva, like Carol, like because in some ways, another great diva who had a lifelong career in theater, so it's different. But like Carol Channing is an iconic diva, but she's been iconic for like 2 roles.
Yeah.
One of which she played like until she, you know, like it's Dolly, like she is Dolly. So and then like Lorelai and Diamonds are Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which she did other things with, right? I'm not making that up.
I think so. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure she was it. But all that to say, like, but she just did Dolly, so does that somehow not qualify her as a diva? I don't know. And I see someone in the comments talking about male diva. Like, yeah, who are some of the divos of Broadway? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring that up in terms of like another framing device, just in terms of like the people who are like Broadway stars versus you know, really solid working actors. I don't think it's that, and this is not to say that there's no judgment attached to that. I think people want to be one thing or another sometimes. Just, you know, I think there are lots of people who are very, very happy just being like flying a little bit under the radar and not like being this personality with a capital, you know, first initial, that suits them better. I think it's in every, you know, TV and film as well. Anyone you think is a budding or future diva?
I think that's a great question. I have an answer because I got to think about it while you were talking. So I would say a future, someone that I'm a big fan of, and she's starting to get a little more publicly known because she's on a TV show that is currently running. I am a big fan of Stephanie Styles, who I think has diva potential, and in the best way. I think she's hilarious. She's very talented and can sing. She's one of those like people who can do a lot, and she was just a revival. I mean, like Stephanie Styles is known, but I feel like she hasn't quite yet gotten to diva, but I feel like she is a future diva, and that makes me happy and excited for the future of Broadway.
Yeah, that's great. I would say, there's so many good people out there. Let's think. Who are the really great budding divas? You know what?
Like Lindsay Mendez is a budding diva.
I'd say she's already there.
Is she? Well, I don't know that she is, like, because I don't know that she's trans. I mean, to people, like, on some level, like, too, because, like, diva means that, like, on some level, I think it almost means that, like, a normal person who is not a totally creature of theater knows who they are.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's true of Lindsay Mendez.
Lindsay Mendez should be in the revival of Funny Girl that is happening in my mind. She'd be a good choice.
There's video of her doing I'm the Greatest Star, I think I've seen it. I think maybe I'm making that up or I've just dreamed it, but if I dreamt it, it's really good, so I agree.
Yeah. Okay. I would say I'm so happy. I mean, I would say that this is a person who I am waiting for them to get the recognition that I think they very much deserve, because I think this person is a unbelievably talented Broadway performer with a quality that I don't see very often on stages. But I don't think they would self-identify as a diva, and I don't know if that's exactly the niche that they want to go into. But I would say Ali Bonino. Ali Bonino is a really gorgeous performer. She is warmth in human form. She does a million billion readings because everybody writes things for her once they know her, because she's got a glorious voice. I don't know why she hasn't played Elphaba yet. This is a thing I get angry with my friends about, because she should play Elphaba. She's amazing, and she would be amazing at it. So I would say Ali Bonino, keep an eye out for that. She's great.
The other I would say is a budding diva, and she is a friend of mine, so I feel like I'm a little, I mean, I have lots of friends I think are massively talented, so if any one of them are watching it, by including the person, it's not like I'm not including you, but I think that Izzy McCullough is a future diva in the best way, because she's amazing and I adore her. She's a friend, so I am a little biased on that front again, but she's one of those that, like, she was one of the leads in The Prom recently and did Aladdin for a long time, and I think she can like tap as well as anyone and belt her face off, and also as a gifted actress, she's like one of those real like triple threats. So I think that's probably my future diva that I'll close out on.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll also say too, one of my former students, Sammy Williams, who I taught her at Pace, and even then, when she was a freshman, and she was cast by Janine Tesori as Caroline in Caroline or Change at Pace University as a freshman.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she was in Dear Evan Hansen. She was set to open in the Anika and Rose, another fabulous Broadway diva. We should not forget Anika.
Yes.
In Caroline or Change, playing that part. Whose name I can't remember.
I'm not gonna get it. I was trying. I can't find it.
Anyway, now I'm forgetting it, but she's also amazing. She was just in. Tomorrow, I think we'll be posting an Into the Woods that's been made up of a bunch of Broadway people, and she does Little Red in that. So I think she's already on the stratosphere rise, but she's great.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think that concludes at least our first Diva Power half hour. Thank you all for joining us. Let's raise one glass. We're gonna drink to all of them. We're drinking to all the divas today. So cheers. Yeah.
A little quarantine bevy.
A little quarantine ditty. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. We hope that you have a lovely rest of your week. And do check out some of the other things that we've got going on at Good Speed. We have our Great Speed series that we just launched last week, which is a bit of a retrospective on some of our favorite shows on the Opera House stage. And then on Thursdays, we have In the Home Office, where we talk with new writers about what they're up to. And of course, we have our podcast, In the Spotlight, that you can find on iTunes, Spotify, or pretty much anywhere you get podcasts. So like, subscribe, rate, review, all the things. So we're pretty proud of it, aren't we? I'd say we're pretty proud of it, Anika.
Well, yeah, we're definitely proud of it.
We're definitely proud. Definitely worth it. A lot of really exciting people are having fun. So check all that out. We're sending love and light to all of you, and we'll see you next week at 5. Bye, everyone.
I'll drink to that.